This video is on parallelograms. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral that has both pairs of opposite sides parallel to each other. So for example, here in parallelogram ABCD, side AB is parallel to DC and BC is parallel to AD. A parallelogram has the following properties. Its opposite sides are congruent. So here in parallelogram JKLM, length of JK is congruent to the length of ML, and the length of JM is congruent to the length of KL. Opposite angles are also congruent. Here in parallelogram JKLM, angle J is congruent to angle L, and angle K is congruent to angle M. Consecutive angles are supplementary. In parallelogram JKLM, J and K add up to 180, K and L are supplementary, angle L and angle M are supplementary, and angle M and angle J are supplementary. In a parallelogram, the diagonals bisect each other. So here in parallelogram ABCD, the length of AE is the same as the length of EC, and BE is equal to ED. A diagonal of a parallelogram creates two congruent triangles. So in parallelogram ABCD, triangle ABD is congruent to triangle CBD. And in a parallelogram, one pair of opposite sides is both parallel and congruent. So here in parallelogram ABCD, side AB is parallel to DC, and AB is also congruent to DC. Now the converses of all of these statements, in other words, kind of flipping it around, can be used to show that a quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So for example, if a quadrilateral has both pairs of opposite sides parallel to each other, then it is a parallelogram. If you have a quadrilateral that has both pairs of opposite sides congruent to each other, then that quadrilateral is a parallelogram. If the opposite angles of a quadrilateral are congruent, then that quadrilateral is a parallelogram. If the consecutive angles of a quadrilateral are supplementary to each other, then that quadrilateral is a parallelogram. And if the diagonals of a quadrilateral bisect each other, then it is a parallelogram. Oh, one more. And if one pair of opposite sides of a quadrilateral is both parallel and congruent, then that quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So here is the little blue box that was on your discovery activity. You should be able to complete the following sentences. So let's make sure that you fill these out correctly. So both pairs of opposite sides of a parallelogram are both parallel and congruent. Opposite angles in a parallelogram are congruent. In a parallelogram, one pair of opposite sides is both parallel and congruent. Consecutive angles in a parallelogram are supplementary. The diagonals in a parallelogram bisect each other. And one diagonal of a parallelogram creates two congruent triangles. Make sure that these are in your notes. So in this video, we took a look at what a parallelogram is and all of the different properties of parallelograms.